enduring lifeblood of our community with the launch of the KBLA SMB Marketplace. For the first time, small to medium-sized businesses will have an opportunity to promote their goods and services on KBLA and take advantage of our powerful reach and local marketing power. The SMB Marketplace is hosted exclusively on KBLA1580.com and is accessible from all our social media channels. Whether you're a small mom and pop restaurant, a car dealership, or a professional practitioner, we invite you to join in this new KBLA Talk 1580 initiative to promote your business. As a Black-owned small business, you don't want to miss this unique opportunity to gain new customers on KBLA Talk 1580. For more information, contact us today at smb@kbla1580.com. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
And if I share with you my story, would you share your shadow with me? Time to get paid.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. You are listening to the Black Pack. This is Adrianne Shropshire, and we are listening to Aretha talk about being young, gifted, and black. This one of the controversial, I don't even know, statements, I guess, that Trump, or arguments, right, that Trump tried to lean into. And it was kind of bizarre in a way, right? So, we played Radiohead Creep in the last hour. And, it was kind of creepy, right? Sort of, he was asked a question by one of the Black women journalists at the NABJ panel about, his comment, the kinds of comments that he's made. He immediately started talking about Vice President Harris, turning black, saying he didn't know she was black, and then suddenly she became black, and he didn't even know it. That then spawned, a whole online, social media set of memes and, people engaging with each other about, when did you learn, when did you turn black? Please tell us the story about when you, sir, black person, turned black. So there is some ridiculous in all of this, but Trump is many things. He is not a fool. He knew what he was doing, and what he was doing is, the result of what he was doing is this, that we're now talking about it, right, and that people are having a conversation about it, and then within, certainly on social media, I would guess in real life too, right, in IRL, people are having conversations about this question. And so, I wanted to play Young, Gifted, and Black because, in fact, that is a part of Vice President Harris's legacy, that she has been young, gifted, and black. And so I want to, we actually have a clip, I think, of her talking about that.
It was around this time that Aretha Franklin was famously singing, "You are young, gifted, and black." Everything that was communicated to us told us that we were special, that we were loved, and that we had responsibilities, and that we should never let anybody tell us who we are. We tell them who we are. And
So, this is when, the one of the last callers talked about, that suddenly, or Trump said, that Vice President Harris just became black, right? The previous caller said, she wasn't black until she ran for Senate. But this is her, quite some time ago, talking about what it meant to her as a black child to hear Aretha Franklin singing about being young, gifted, and Black. And so I want to, I think it's important that we have, again, actual and real conversations. Like, we have not had, the previous conversation about, the vice president has been referred to and talked about as a Black woman, many, many times. She does not reject that. She embraces it because that's who she is. And in fact, we have another clip that I want to play right quick of our very own Tavis Smiley introducing now Vice President Kamala Harris at an event.
From a great Congresswoman to a great DA, Black woman, DA in San Francisco County, Kamala D. Harris, the DA.
This is at an event that Tavis is moderating, hosting for Black folks, right? With Black elected officials on this stage, including then San Francisco District Attorney Kamala Harris. So there is a way in which we need to check ourselves about how we are having this conversation, and we also need to be mindful about who is forcing us into this conversation, because this is not a conversation that just organically started because somehow we decided we were going to have it. This is a conversation because a man who is a known racist sat on a stage after disparaging the Black women on stage with him and disrespecting the audience of Black journalists, made a comment, right, about a comment that he knew to be false, right? A comment that is very reminiscent of the comments that he made about President Obama, right? When we talk about a new form of birtherism, right? That suddenly we're having the same conversation about this Black person who is now running for the presidency. It's the same conversation that we had that Trump also initiated in 2008 about President Barack Obama. And so we need to make sure that we're making those connections. We're going to talk about this with a guest when we come forward. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580. Tavis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out.
Going down in a rinse change.
Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes 100% of odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Try Venus for pubic hair and skin, the razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Discover the full regimen of products at GilletteVenus.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in our climate justice campaign partner, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr., as we celebrate the grand unveiling of the South LA Greenway, Saturday, August 3rd, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, 5790 Compton Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. Join us for a green and healthy festival with free food, planting activities, tree adoptions, nature walking tours, Zumba, yoga, sound baths, and more. It's summer, time to get outside. We look forward to seeing you at the dedication of the South LA Greenway, Saturday, August 3rd, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, 5790 Compton Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr. and KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is Adrianne Shropshire. You're listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. I want to take a caller because Daryl called in and we had him on hold for a little bit. So Daryl, I don't want to miss the opportunity to have you chime in. Thanks for calling. And Daryl, you're here in Los Angeles, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. And it's amazing. I'm so glad that you're having this conversation because obviously just by listening to I just jumped in my truck because I'm off work. But I heard that guy talking about Kamala has never didn't just denied her black heritage. I don't ever remember her doing that. Mm-hmm. And her name's been Harris the whole time. She don't have an Indian name. Correct. She don't have a mom's name, so I don't know where that's coming from. But you got to understand all of these people that listen to Trump. Trump does exactly what he wants to do. He didn't show up there to answer no questions. Mm-hmm. He didn't show up there to... But whoever put him on stage should know that.
Right. Yes.
This guy is like Sullivan. You can see right through him. He's not going to answer no questions. He's going to come in there and stir the pot.
Right.
He's not talking to no black people when he get on that stage.
Right.
He's talking to his base.
That's right.
That's why he didn't answer no questions.
That's right.
He came there to say... Now, and these other black folks are so misinformed. I can't believe it. The Amber Rose girl, the freaking Rexy Red girl, all of these people, even 50 Cent. I don't look to none of them for their dang old political advice. They're misinformed.
Right.
50 don't care because 50 looking to cut a deal somewhere. He don't care about Jack, right? He can cut a deal. But these other people, Amber, you claim the fame as being with that other boy, that other fool. What's his name?
Yeah, Kanye.
Whatever his name is.
Or whatever his name is.
It's ridiculous. But you see how he get in there and methodically just kick up the pot, talking about the equipment didn't work. From what I understand, the first 35 minutes, he acted like he couldn't hear.
Right.
They said the equipment was working. He just couldn't hear.
Yes.
So it's just, he's diabolical with that. He's a master showman, and that's all it is, a show.
That's right.
And for anybody to not, let's hit another one, too. I'm glad we're on the subject. Judge Joe Brown, if I see one more freaking one of his videos talking about Kamala the way he do, I'm going to find that boy and put some hands on him.
Okay.
There's no reason.
We don't advocate violence
no reason for him to... I got it. I don't know what his problem with Kamala is. Yeah. Either she got too far ahead. He was a little TV judge for a while, and now he's gone, and he ain't got no relativity, so now he want to stand on somebody else. Talking about she ain't black. Well, where was she? I guarantee you she went through the same amount of racism as any other black person would in her position wherever she went. I guarantee you that, because maybe you see her as something else, but once you mix with black, you are black. That's 1 ounce. It's been the norm for years.
That's right.
All right, dear, I'll go on all night because I get really hot when people talk about.
I appreciate you. I mean, if you get home, I know you're in transition. If you get home, jump on the YouTube because the chat is lit right now, and I appreciate the folks who are weighing in there, and I think you would have a lot of fun jumping in the chat. But I appreciate you raise a lot of good points, including the one that I think Kamala Harris, Noah in the chat said that Kamala Harris' mother raised her knowing that the world would see her and her sister as being black. And so when you talk about what she has gone through in her career, that the challenges that she has faced, not a one of us thinks that she has not faced some of those challenges precisely because she is a black woman. So I appreciate you calling in, and raising these issues. So
Thank you so much for your comments.
Of course. I'm going to get to the chat in a minute, but I will say that there's some ridiculousness going on in the chat. Some of y'all just ridiculous, but we're going to come to that after we talk to our next guest. And we have with us this afternoon, I'm very thankful to have with us this afternoon Professor Judith Scully from Stetson University College of Law. She's teaches criminal law, constitutional law, and social advocacy, as well on seminars related to race and American law and international human rights. So, Judy, I want to thank you so much for joining us in what has apparently become a hot topic of discussion, a topic that after, how many ever years of sort of beating back this conversation about President Obama, we seem to find ourselves in the same conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. And yes, I agree with you. It is absolutely crazy and ridiculous that we are back here again talking about having someone prove who they are from a racial perspective. Mm-hmm. It makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean, certainly race is complex, right? In the United States, right? How people self-identify, how the government counts you, all of that has changed over the years, right? The census has, added things, and there's been controversy around the census, what boxes you check. But talk to us a little bit about in this moment in particular where we are. When we think about the demographics, the way the demographics are changing in the country, we talk all the time about the sort of fear, right? When people say, we're losing our country, like what are they talking about? And just the way the demographics are changing, then we have more multiracial people, right? In our country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's really quite obvious what is happening here, right? There is a fear of the black nation, right? There's a fear of a nation of color. Mm-hmm. Is it 2050 that they say the United States is going to be majority people of color? Mm-hmm. And the MAGA folks have lost their minds about that. They are afraid of being erased and eliminated and being rendered a minority, and they know what that means to be a minority in this country, right? Mm-hmm. Or they know what it has meant to them, right?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of the problem here is that everyone who is white and very reactionary in terms of adopting a white supremacist philosophy is sitting on the edge of their chair wondering what is going to happen when the percentage of the population shifts to be majority people of color. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's part of what's happening.
Part of the challenge, the discomfort that folks have, and it really does. I mean, we hear folks talk all the time about sort of the facing the sort of very undemocratic reality of living under, minority rule, right? And I think that that's part of, when we think about even the Supreme Court decisions that we've seen recently, and certainly the kinds of, laws that we're seeing and policy that we're seeing move in states, there is this sort of positioning, right, to make sure that, that one particular segment of our population stays in control. And that's,
right.
That is not how democracies are supposed to work, and so
although I mean, you say that's not how it's supposed to work, but the truth of the matter is, historically, that's how it's worked. When you think about how this country was founded, it was founded on a white supremacist philosophy where the only people who could vote were white male property individuals, right? That was it.
That's right. Yeah.
So when we think about where did we come from, that is the tradition But we are moving away from that, moving far away from that, and demanding equality and justice, breathing life into those principles.
That's right.
And that is making people uncomfortable.
That's right. And so that, like, the point that you just made is also the point that when Vice President Harris says we're not going back, right? When we hear, the sort of slogan of the Trump campaign that says, make America great again, right? And people constantly question, like, which period of time are you talking about when that was true? There is there is, a reality about the need for us to make sure that we stay dedicated to and have fidelity to this notion of progress, right? Of forward progress always, right? The other thing that's coming up in this conversation, and I feel a kind of way about even having to talk about this, I have to say, right? Because I know that this is a tactic. I know that it's a distraction, right? I think Jed in the chat, in the live chat, said that all of this is a distraction, to distract us away from the terrible president that Donald Trump will be, right? All of this is a distraction to have us not pay attention to the terrible campaign that he is running right now, to a distraction to keep us looking away from the terrible vice presidential, nomination that he made. And so I know that, but here we are, because in our community, this is a conversation, and another dimension of this is about the fact that, that she is a child of immigrant parents. And so this sort of strangeness around, which I fully cannot actually comprehend, the idea of saying that a Jamaican man is not black and so therefore his child is not black. Like, this is beyond my ability to comprehend exactly what people are saying. Now, I kind of know, right? I know what's up underneath that, right? But there is this piece that I think sort of plays into what Trump is asking us to do, and that is to demonize folks, right? And we're not going to do that because we've been demonized. So we're not doing that. We're not playing that game.
Right.
But this does play into him asking black people in this country to look at their neighbors, quite frankly, because we live in communities that are multiracial and mixed status, right? And
even when they're all black, they're diverse.
Exactly.
Because black people come from all over the diaspora.
Exactly.
You can't help but have a diverse black community.
That's right. And so talk about that a little bit, this notion of sort of, trying to force us, into, disparaging folks who frankly look like us, right? Also this idea of, someone's not black if they're a black immigrant. What is that?
Well, it's the typical divide and conquer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a strategy that has worked all throughout history, unfortunately. And you're right, we cannot be distracted by that. The goal is to get black folks divided up so that we don't have a unified voice. And we absolutely cannot be distracted in that way. We need to stay focused on the fact that there is an agenda from the MAGA folks that really is anti-immigrant, anti-black, anti-people of color, anti-woman, right? And basically it's an attack on the majority of us. And we need to be focused on that, right? This is not really an attack just on black people or an attack just on LGBTQ people. It is an attack on the majority of people in this country, and we need to be unified. And this whole conversation happening right now about what race is Kamala is really meant to, again, just divide and conquer us on a small level, and it will continue. They'll try to divide and conquer us on every level to make sure that all of these different groups that have traditionally been labeled minority don't become the majority.
Right.
We can't fall for it.
We can't fall for it. And I want to stick on this point for a minute, because I think that this is, is a little bit what I raised earlier, which is this is about divide and conquer, right? It is about making sure that people who should be in right relationship with one another, right, are not, right?
Yep.
This is, about making sure, or attempting to make sure, that folks who have maybe some differences, but very little differences, right, exaggerate, that those differences are exaggerated so that we feel like somehow someone's getting something that we're not, when we in fact are all in the same boat, right? And so I think I want to stick on that for a minute, because I like, this is, again, I will say that this did not happen as an organic conversation that just evolved in our community, right? Like, this happened because this man said this on stage the other day. I know that I see what I think, quite frankly, are bots, right, in social media feeds that are sort of driving this conversation, this sort of right-wing, ecosystem and echo chamber that bleeds over into, the social media feeds of folks who don't live in that corner of the internet, right? But it bleeds over into sort of the mainstream. And so it's not coming from us necessarily. Some folks, right, some of us are picking up on it and running with it for a whole host of reasons. But we need to be clear that this is divide and conquer, and that it is coming. It is an external conversation being forced upon us.
Absolutely. Right. And that's what you originally stated, that we can't be distracted by that. That is not, as you said, an organic conversation coming from us that is being thrust upon us, and we're asked to react. Right. And we cannot be reactionary right now. We have to stay focused. As they say, keep your eyes on the prize. What is the prize? Making sure that Kamala Harris becomes the president. That is the goal right now. We need to make sure that Project 2025 and President Trump never see the light of day. Right? That has to end now. That is the goal.
Right. Keep our eyes on the prize, because there are lots of efforts to distract. There is noise coming from all sectors, and I'm glad you brought up 2025, because we've been talking about it here on the show. I know other folks, Joy Reid just did a whole segment on it, and I would recommend that if folks did not see the readout with Joy Reid on MSNBC on Monday night, that you go to the YouTube and watch that show that talks about Project 2025, because when we think about, because we're talking about this instead of talking about Project 2025, which is what we've been talking about. Right? Like, we cannot fall for the okie doke over and over and over again. Like, we're talking about this and not Project 2025. We're talking about this instead of what actually happened when Trump was president and the way our communities were damaged. So this is and
not talking about the racism that's coming from him and all of his the advisors around him.
That's right. Every single one of them.
It is an attack on us.
That's right. So
we don't need to be attacking each other. We need to be focused on the fact that attack is coming towards us on a regular and consistent basis, and it is an attempt to really center white supremacy once again.
That's right. I want to thank you for joining us. I appreciate it, you coming on and having this conversation with us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you.
All right, when we come forward, we're going to continue the conversation. I'm going to ask you all to call in with your thoughts, 800-920-1580.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Doug Davis with the latest from the Black Information Network. Kamala Harris is now the presumptive Democratic nominee for president. The vice president crossed the threshold of delegate votes needed during a virtual roll call, and Harris will officially accept the nomination next week. The DNC's vote started Thursday morning, and Harris ran for the nomination unopposed. Fast food workers in California are demanding another raise in the minimum wage. California Fast Food Workers Union says the latest increase from $16 to $20 is not enough. It's seeking a raise to $20.70. A meeting with the state's fast food council is scheduled for later this month. And today in U.S. history, back in 2012, the U.S. men's basketball team put on the greatest offensive performance in Olympic history with a 156-73 rout of Nigeria. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com. Stay safe out there. Have a great weekend.
Usual heavy traffic through the city of Hollywood is ahead, up to 25 minutes on the 101 South between Gower Street and the 10 7th Street interchange. In Commerce, drive remains heavy to Firestone on the 710 South after Washington Boulevard as an accident remains on the right shoulder, and heavy traffic over 20 minutes continues from Floral Drive. Paramount's 105 East after Paramount Boulevard, watch for a 20-minute backup as a two-vehicle accident remains blocking two right lanes with heavy traffic coming from the 110. 91 East at Cherry Avenue continues to run heavy from Central over 20 minutes as the stall remains blocking the center lane.
Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America N.A. Copyright 2024.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
More track and field events are coming up tomorrow in the Summer Olympics. The finals in the women's 100 meters, women's triple jump, men's decathlon, and the men and women 4x400 relays. If you missed the live coverage in the morning, most of these events will be replayed Saturday evening. Lakers center Anthony Davis said his right ankle is 100% healthy for tomorrow's game against Puerto Rico. Davis tweaked his ankle Wednesday against South Sudan. The U.S. Olympic men's basketball team is in the quarterfinals. Tip-off time tomorrow morning at 8:15 a.m. on NBC and the Peacock Channel. The NFL preseason kicked off last night with the Chicago Bears and Houston Texans meeting up in the Hall of Fame game. First preseason game for the Chargers is August 10th against Seattle at SoFi Stadium. The Rams play their preseason opener August 11th against the Dallas Cowboys, also at SoFi. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I need your dollar, that's what I need.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates small businesses, the enduring lifeblood of our community, with the launch of the KBLA SMB Marketplace. For the first time, small to medium-sized businesses will have an opportunity to promote their goods and services on KBLA and take advantage of our powerful reach and local marketing power. The SMB Marketplace is hosted exclusively on KBLA1580.com and is accessible from all our social media channels. Whether you're a small mom and pop restaurant, a car dealership, or a professional practitioner, we invite you to join in this new KBLA Talk 1580 initiative to promote your business. As a Black-owned small business, you don't want to miss this unique opportunity to gain new customers on KBLA Talk 1580. For more information, contact us today at smb@kbla1580.com. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me? Time to get paid.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downy are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/TC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
You're inside the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
We going. My pants poster said, we going ultra. Yeah, we going ultra black. I got a toast to that. We don't fold it. We going Occasion we rose to that, going postal. We going ultra black, watching the global change. Hop in the coldest range, hit boy on the beat. This
is KBLA Talk 1580. You are listening to the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire. I'm looking at the live chat, and there is a way in which I'm going to try and state this slightly differently than I have stated before with some of the callers that have called in. Y'all can't just be showing up saying anything, right? Like, the stuff I see in this chat right now is frankly just not true. It's nonsense. And I know that we live in a world where, you just post any old thing on social media, true, not true, whatever, and then it lives on. But honestly, if you want to have an actual conversation, then please come to this conversation with truth and with facts, and not something that you saw on your social media feed that you don't know if it's true or not, but you just decided to keep saying it, or talking points that come out of the right-wing echo chamber that you think that somehow you're going to insert into this conversation, and that somehow the rest of us are going to just jump on board, even though we know that it's not true. So, try and have an actual conversation with each other that's based in fact, and it's not just insulting, because the sort of insults about people read something while they were drinking tea, like there's some misogyny up in here that we're just not doing, not on this show. You can take this someplace else if you want to, but not here. So I want to just come back to the conversation. I think that there is a lot of ways when we think about one of the things that this conversation is opening up and allowing for us to do is to actually have a conversation about the vice president and about her history, and the things that have made her, in fact, who she is, the experiences that she has had that actually make her the right person for this moment. So I think we're going to let her talk a little bit more and just hear her voice in defining the experiences that she's had. Andy, let's play that clip.
It has prepared and produced thousands of Black lawyers and doctors, artists and writers, dentists and pharmacists, social workers and engineers. And most recently, Howard has even partnered with Google to bring more Black students into the technology industry. And it certainly prepared me for a career in public service, starting with my first ever political race, which was for freshman class representative of what was then called the Liberal Arts Student Council. So at this moment, when voices at the highest level of our government seem confused about the significance and even the constitutionality of supporting an HBCU, I say, look over here at Howard University.
So this is, again, I think we have an opportunity here to really open up the conversation about the experiences that have prepared her for this moment. And I think we don't have to go off the rails and get into a conversation about what she is and what she isn't, because I think that her entire biography is, a testament to the woman that she is to this day, the reason why she is in the position that she is in right now, to lead not only our country, but to be the first Black woman who is called the leader of the free world. And maybe that is part of what is scaring people. I want to bring in right now Alyssa Williams, who joined us last week to talk about what the Black Pack and the Village team were hearing from voters on the street. They had just visited Philadelphia and Wilmington, North Carolina, and we're talking to voters about how they're feeling about the vice president being moved up to the top of the ticket. But Alyssa, I also thank you first of all for coming back and joining us.
Of course.
And
Thanks for having me.
Sure. I also wanted to just bring you in, particularly in that segment with Vice President Harris, or in that clip of Vice President Harris talking about, how Howard University prepared her to be in the position that she's in, and has prepared, many, many generations of Black folks to lead. And I want to bring you in on, after that segment, because you also attended an HBCU. And so talk about, what that experience was for you, right? But also what that, how you think that sort of played into the vice president, and what are priorities for her, what have been priorities for her throughout her political career?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you asked that question, because the HBCU experience is unlike any other. I grew up in a predominantly white area and did not have community in the way that some folks do, where you can go to the local store and just make friends with the Black business owner, where you can have a whole classroom full of Black children or children that look like you. I did not have that. As we look at how an HBCU prepares you for leadership, it is all about keeping your eye on the prize. It is about working twice as hard to be just as good or better than the next and the rest, and really working to be the best version of yourself for this community, right? And so that's when HBCUs shapes you to be, is the best version of yourself for your community. But also then when you step out into that outside world where not everyone looks like you, still bringing those same leadership skills that got you ahead at an HBCU.
Yeah, that's important, because I think that this is, not, totally continuing to move this ridiculous conversation about what it means, to be Black, or is someone Black or not Black. I think that the thing that you just said is really important about that HBCU experience, which is that it prepares you to be a leader for your community, right? To take that responsibility and understand what that means to lead. When you all were, I'm going to ask you a little bit about some of this conversation in terms of what you all heard when you were out talking to voters last week. And I know that you all are headed back out, and we should tell people to get ready, because the Village and the Black Pack team are coming to, I think, Detroit next, and Cleveland, I think, will be the next two places. So if someone approaches you with a little iPhone camera and a mic, and know that that's the Village and or the Black Pack team, and they have a question for you. But did this come up? Did you hear people raising this question? Because I feel like it is not, and we've been saying it's not an organic conversation that people are, when we knock on a door, it's not like someone opens the door and says, well, I want to talk about whether or not Vice President Harris is Black. Like, that's not a thing. But did you all hear that? Was that a thing that came up as you all were out talking to folks?
What did come up was a bit of skepticism in terms of what she would do for our community. And I think that's where, again, we go back to the reminder of she was built for this moment. She was bred and raised in an HBCU, and that is what prepares you for leadership, for not just the world, but your own community. So when, and I wouldn't say it's much different than what we heard back in 2008, where people were skeptical of what Obama could do for the community. But it is a reminder that the HBCU experience shapes you, but we did hear a little bit of skepticism among some of the folks that we ran into, and when
but that's legitimate. But that's legitimate.
That conversation.
Yeah, that's legitimate skepticism, right? I mean, like every voter should be saying, what it says is that people still are unfamiliar with her, right? Like they don't know a lot about her, and so that's that's the campaign can take that and say, okay, well, we need to make sure that folks know, right? And voters, it's our job as voters to say, well, what is this person going to do, right, for our community? What is this person going to do for our country at large? Those are all legitimate questions, but it doesn't seem like there is this sort of immediate jump to this other sort of controversial piece. But we'll talk about that when we come forward. We're going to pick up this conversation. We're going to take some more callers. I let people know one more time, 800-920-1580. If you want to bring some actual factual conversation into, then please do. But when we come forward, we'll continue with Alyssa Williams.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey LA, Today I'm here to talk to you about Grid Alternatives, which is a nonprofit in LA that focuses on renewable energy. We serve communities who have been left out of the renewable energy sector. We offer paid job training, and in 13 weeks, you can become a solar installer. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry, and once you're hired in the industry, you stop at a high, medium income. That could be $20 an hour or more. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry. Call today so you don't be left out at 323-861-0105 or gridalternatives.org, gridalternatives.org.
For Commonwealth McCann, this is Chevy Radio. Title of the spot is Retail Radio August 2024 Multi-Line Before and After 1.9% APR 60-inch. ISCI code is GWMRO 28400. This is a 60 seconds, English, stereo, full mix.
With the incredibly spacious 3-row Chevy Traverse, you can change
Let's just meet at the concert.
into
Why don't I pick all you guys up on the way?
the advanced safety-engineered Chevy Blazer EV lets you turn. You think we should turn back? Into full steam ahead. And with the affordable Equinox EV,
Keep an eye out for the next Charger, kids.
becomes
Get comfortable, kids. We'll be home in 4 hours.
for all kinds of summer adventures, Chevy's got you.
Well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR on all 2024 Silverado 1500 Blazer EV, Equinox, Trailblazer, Blazer, and Colorado models. Chevrolet, together let's drive. 1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 13.5%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/3/24.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us for a book party celebrating The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. Almost 2 decades ago, the Covenant book, compiled and edited by Tavis Smiley, climbed to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list and stayed there for weeks. The first book by a black-owned publisher to achieve such a feat. The urgency of the issues that matter most to black fellow citizens has only intensified, especially in this critical election year. On Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m., come meet Tavis Smiley alongside Covenant contributors including Cornel West, Connie Rice, Mark Ridley Thomas, Elisa Orduna, Tyrone Howard, and Melina Abdullah as they sign copies of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. You can purchase your books on site and get them autographed. That's Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m. in the city of Los Angeles. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
Listen to the Black Pack. I'm your host, Adrianne Shropshire. We are here at KBLA Talk 1580 in the historic Leimert Park. We are unapologetically progressive. So I want to get back to the conversation with Alyssa about what we've been hearing from folks in these streets. And, you know, I think before we do that, though, Alyssa, I actually want to take a call. You can take a call with me. We have Jed, who's been waiting patiently as we have continued this conversation. So Jed, thank you for calling in. We appreciate your comments.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm really happy to say a few words on the show. So I think the show is great. I think it's really important to spread the right kind of information about what we all need to know about what's happening electorally. So my question is this. So, you know, looking at the footage of Trump at the NABJ conference, and I'm trying to think, why would he show up and why would he do that? Mm-hmm. And part of the conversation in my black chat group is Trump actually trying to win black people to turn out to vote for him? Mm-hmm. Or is his strategy really to have black people simply not turn out? Mm-hmm. Right. So like him thinking, I can't get black people to vote for me, but if I can sow enough discord, maybe they simply won't turn out and vote for Kamala. And so my question for you is, do you think Trump is actually really trying to get black people to vote for him, or is he more interested in just suppressing the black vote in general?
Yeah. So the Republican strategy, whether it's Trump or anyone else, but particularly with Trump, seems to completely be about simply suppressing the vote. And so they're suppressing the vote, like literally, right, like through passing laws that block our access to the vote by, the things that we've seen in Georgia and in other states across the country. So like literally suppressing the vote. But there is also this sort of like a strategy that is fundamentally about getting black folks to call into question or to doubt the leadership of Democratic candidates. And so by doing so, then, saying, well, we can't trust them. We definitely don't trust Republicans, but we don't know that we can trust the Democrats either. And so maybe we're just going to stay home. So it is fundamentally a strategy that is about causing black folks to not use the power of their vote. And that has always been the Republican strategy. I think Trump knows, when Trump is out there talking about he's, winning historic numbers of votes. First of all, we talked with Cornell Belcher and others about the reality of the polls that are suggesting that in terms of the tiny sample sizes that they're using, that the sample sizes view more conservative, et cetera. Those numbers are not real. But it is important for Trump to be able to say that because, one, I think that it makes him feel good because he has some obsession with wanting black people to really like him. And then the other is that it says it is a narrative and a story that they would like to live, right, within black communities. This idea that, we can't fight it, right? There is this new set of, historic numbers of black folks that are going to vote Republican or vote for Trump. And so therefore, it's sort of the development of this narrative of them telling black people a story about themselves and then just hoping against hope that we'll believe it, right? And so, no, I don't think that his appearance there is at all about winning over black voters. That was not the room to do it in if he was actually trying to do that. We've seen the stunts that he's pulled around the country with his fake black events, whether they're in churches that are filled with white folks.
Or barbershops.
Or barbershops where the owners don't even know why people have come into their barbershop, or in Chick-fil-A's with young people who have been paid to show up and say that they just happened to show up at the Chick-fil-A when Trump got there. So they're all stunts. So this is not about winning over black voters at all. It is about raising enough doubt among black folks, creating enough distraction among black folks, saying, raising these ridiculous arguments about things that are, untrue and irrelevant, like whether or not the black lady who was the vice president of the United States is actually a black lady, right? So raising these ridiculous discussions, divide and conquer, as our last guest talked about, and the trick is, are we going to fall for it? Right? Are we going to fall for the divide and conquer, right? Or are we not? Are we going to be clear, keep our eyes on the prize, and understand that forward progress means for us to get behind, Kamala Harris? So I appreciate that's a really important point that you raised about what is this really about, and I think that we all need to remember that from the Trump side of the equation, this is all a game, right? It's all a reality TV show, and we don't have to get caught up in the reality TV show. We can actually live in the reality that is our black lives, and keep it pushing. So thanks, Jed. Appreciate you calling in and raising that important point.
Thank you.
Alyssa, your thoughts on that question. What is this about? And what did people say to you about when you were out on the street talking to folks? What did folks say to you about Trump and whether or not they had any intention of supporting him?
Let me answer your first question in terms of, what I think about what the last caller posed is that, obviously, like the Democratic Party has coalesced around Kamala Harris, it is up to the diverse communities in this nation to do the same. It's the divide and conquer strategy that is what is intended to, break us apart. And the more that we actually come together and support her, the more fearful we know that the Trump and the right-wing folks will become. Now, to answer your question about, what we heard on the street, the overwhelming sentiment was that Trump is weird. We talk about what that's been a key theme this week, and we actually heard that directly from some folks in West Philly, where they flat out said Trump is weird. It came down to, is Kamala, who is Kamala Harris by contrast? And she was magical. So we've heard that it is understood across the community within, some of these key swing states. It is understood that what Trump stands for is nothing that's in support of our community, and his behavior shouldn't be normalized.
Yeah. And I think it's important that we lift up those voices, right? It is oftentimes, particularly in the age of social media, that the loudest voices, whether they're the majority, and they mostly are not, they're the minority, but you would think that they were the majority because they're loud, and they get amplified. And it's one of the things that I think has been important for us, for Black PAC, and the work that we've been doing and the conversations that you all have been having, is just going out there and talking to regular people and elevating their voices. Because they're not actually saying what people are seeing in the social media feeds. And right now, it is interesting to see that in the last week or so, since the last week again feels like it's been 10 years, but like in the last week, even on social media, when people jump out and say, ridiculous, misogynistic, racist things about the vice president, it is interesting to watch the comments, right? Because the comments look different than they did 2 weeks ago, right? The comments now are like, you need to check your facts. That's racist. That's misogynist, right? So it really is people now feeling like they have permission to push back on the nonsense that's out there, right? And I think that we need to continue to create spaces for people to be able to let their voice be heard, right? That people don't have to be scared to push back against the racism and misogyny that they're hearing out there. And I think that we're seeing that both in the conversations that I know that you all have had. We're seeing that online in comments where people are saying, no, we're not going to let that stand. And so I think that we need to create an opportunity for the majority of folks in this country, and certainly in our community, to actually say what they think, what the majority of folks think. So, Alyssa, I want to thank you for joining us again. I know that you all are going to be having more conversations over the coming weeks, and so I'm looking forward to having you and your colleagues actually back on to talk about what you're hearing, what you hear after y'all get back from Detroit, what you hear after y'all get back from Cleveland. So thanks for joining again. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And if I could leave with this, join the Village. Visit us at thevillagemedia.com or at theville, THEVILLMEDIA, on social. So look for us. We only speak facts. That's what you will see on our channel. So we look forward to inviting all of you to follow us and keep up with us.
Yeah, follow the Village, sign up for the newsletter, all the news and information that you might not have time to sort of go through yourself. They are pulling together so that you have it and you can stay informed throughout this election cycle. Thank you for joining us. So I want to, we're coming to the close of the show, and I want to end the show by just acknowledging that we lost a great leader. In her homegoing service was just yesterday, and that is Sheila Jackson Lee. And when we think about her, she was just larger than life, a champion for civil rights, a champion for women's rights, and we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge her passing and acknowledge the important work that she did for all of us and her constituents during her time in public life. So this is the Black PAC. I want to thank you all for joining us again. I hope you all have a great weekend. The Raw Report with Robin Ayers is coming up. See you next Friday.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Doug Davis with the latest from the Black Information Network. Kamala Harris has secured enough delegate votes to become the Democratic nominee for president. The vice president crossed the threshold of delegate votes during a virtual roll call today, and Harris will officially accept the nomination next week. VP Harris says the U.S. will never stop fighting to release American prisoners around the globe. While speaking about the American-Russian prisoner swap from Houston, Harris noted there are still other Americans being unjustly held. Harris said the Americans freed on Thursday were convicted during sham trials in Russia. Cardi B is revealing she's pregnant with her third child one day after she filed for divorce from Offset. The I Like It rapper and Bronx native showed off her belly in a red dress, writing a long caption